Really, it's kind of not much to report in regards to Nebraska Task Force 1. I just got off the phone here a little bit ago to their task force leader, Chief Bonine. They spent the night after traveling all day yesterday in Lexington, Kentucky. And they departed there this morning, and we're currently, as I spoke with him, we're going through the mountains of West Virginia. They're expected, and this is, as you can imagine, if you're watching the news, a very fluid event, and no pun intended again, to arrive at their point of arrival staging area in Raleigh, North Carolina. But with that said, they are having constant contact with the Deputy Operations Section Chief, as well as the National Response Coordination Center, who's coordinating all of the FEMA USAR assets heading into theater, and they could be directed to a different reporting location potentially later this afternoon or within a couple hours, depending on if that comes. It appears the track of the storm is maybe going a little bit south from where they thought initial impact might be coming in, which brings northern Georgia potentially into play, and having to provide assets up and down the whole eastern seaboard. The Response Coordination Center in Washington is kind of determining where the best strategic positioning for those assets might be. So they are still currently on track for arriving in Raleigh, North Carolina about 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, or unless directed, getting into the staging area. With that, once they arrive at whatever location, they will basically be sheltering in place and non-operational until the storm passes. There are rules of engagement that we follow to keep all of our search and rescue folks out of any harm's way. They won't operate in high wind, heavy rains, ground flooding and that kind of stuff. So letting the storm pass and move its way through before they go operational and engaging is kind of what they're doing now. So pretty much arriving in theater safely. Everybody is traveling fine. No issues as they move the convoy of equipment and personnel down the road, identifying exactly where they're going to report, getting there, not necessarily setting up shop or getting all their equipment out, because they could be moved strategically as needed to various operational theaters, just depending on the magnitude and severity of the storm. So kind of it in a nutshell for the eastern seaboard.
Brad, Riley Johnson, the Journal-Star, with a question on, you talk about sheltering in place and kind of how you can't engage when it's full-blown. Do hurricanes, in the past, have they presented challenges where maybe one day it's, there's a need for emergency rescue operations now, but they have to be called off because of weather?
So mostly what happens is every place where they're going to go has a local jurisdiction. So normally your local public safety entities, fire departments, potentially a local or state National Guard may be in theater. They may be doing the imminent rescues, depending what the risk profile is during the time of the storm. You definitely don't want to put a rescuer on harm's way if you have 70, 80, 90 mile an hour winds out there. It's just not going to be very productive. It leads to potential for a different catastrophic event. So they will pretty much they're pre-identifying places for them. They being the incident support team is the oversight team, identifying hardened structures, hurricane-rated structures, so on and so forth, for them to stay in. But the local jurisdiction and the local entities will normally handle all the initial first responders up until their system becomes overwhelmed. And once at that point their system becomes overwhelmed, then we, in essence, will become a backup, if you will, that can take some of that heavy lift off the locals.
Michael Connor with the World Herald.
Hawaii.
Pardon, what was that with Hawaii?
Yes, do you have an update on Hawaii?
it appears, and it's just a lot of weather because right now it's pitch dark. It's early in the morning here, just a little after 5:30. The winds are starting to pick up. It's rained overnight. The storm here is starting to dissipate, and with your, as the locals will put it, they call this a heavy tropic, which means they're going to get high surf for good surfing, big waves, a lot of rain, and high winds. And they will tell you, the local people here, and the culture is that they're kind of used to this. We're basically here for now flooding due to more rain to an already saturated island. A lot of the water runs immediately off into the ocean. There is, because of the potential for the storm, as big as it is on the East Coast, it seems to be growing by every hour report, of strategically airlifting the task forces that are here. And if there is a limited need here on the Big Island, Maui, and Oahu, airlifting them with strategic military assets over to the East Coast at a moment's notice. So kind of holding in wait here as our winds are now starting to move through here at about 40 miles an hour now, and starting to get some high surf out there. I think, but can't really see anything outside, just going on my last weather brief this morning.
Chief Michael Connor with the World Herald. Can you talk a bit about the canine handlers that are heading to Raleigh? I know they rescued some dogs and other animals down in the Houston area last year, but can you talk about that end of things, the canine handlers?
Sure. Very valuable asset, as you can tell, and stuff. So accountability of all persons that live in the community is a big thing. So they are definitely ones that can go and seek out those that might be missing, especially in a search situation. Using their nose way better than mine or any of the other members. But also there's a lot of companion animals and family pets. And so just being able to have the handlers themselves there to help assist with removing individuals and their companion animals as people, as we are instructed to, as part of FEMA's urban search and rescue, to take companion animals with all the evacuees that we take out. They definitely have a knack for handling and have a different mindset, mentality, and skill set to help extract companion animals. I think the great, one of the better benefits is there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of apprehension. People are definitely scared of the unknown when they're put in harm's way like this in such an event, that those search dogs almost become a comfort animal, if you will. That you'll see a lot of people that have been displaced or evacuated just sitting there petting those search dogs and stuff until they're put in theater, and it almost has a soothing and calming effect in the midst of all the chaos.
Chief Meteorologist Sean Emerson from KETV Channel 7 in Omaha. You touched on it earlier about the possibility of being airlifting the crew in Hawaii to move to the East Coast. Do you foresee any type of timetable on when that might occur with the hurricane moving in later this week and with that storm passing through Hawaii this morning?
No, we're at the limit. All resources that are here are assigned to the Pacific Theater, and that is the assignment that we are assigned to not only the Hawaiian Islands, but Guam, the Marianas, Saipan, and that too as well for that typhoon. That typhoon, they seem to be pretty self-sufficient and have the resources they need over on that side of the world. And so once the state of Hawaii determines that they have the resources that they need and don't need any additional, then we'll work that airlift. But that contingency plan is in place. If the storm is coming aboard on the East Coast at the time that we want to or looking to airlift folks out of here, they may be airlifted to somewhere closer to the storm and then have ground transportation from there as opposed to flying right into somewhere close. So a lot of moving parts with a lot of different federal partners and agencies, Department of Defense, Coast Guard, and that just to get these chess pieces moved into place, if you will.
Chief Davenant Riley Johnson with the Journal-Star again. how many handlers are among the 35 or the 44 personnel that are going to? How many dog handlers are in that contingency going to North Carolina?
Two canine handlers and two search canines.
Andrew Ozaki from Channel 7 News. I had one more question. Brad, is there any concern about bandwidth or communications with that many people on the eastern seaboard?
To take the task force, so you kind of got a perspective, as they travel with their own basically bandwidth. They travel with their own satellite uplink system. They have the ability, reach back capability through the incident support team and our ESF9 partners and other partners to move satellite capability above the theater of operation. So they are coming self-sufficient with their own voice over internet phone service, their own bandwidth and satellite radio as well as satellite phone capability is moving within the cache of equipment. So one of the beauties of having that Nebraska task force located in Lincoln, in Omaha within the state of Nebraska, is if we ever had a disaster of this magnitude in our state, we have all that capability at a moment's notice that we can just use the uplink, big and satellite uplink, and basically be self-sufficient when the rest of the community may be going down for that. So not a concern at this moment as those contingencies are in place and self-sustained within the task force.
Nancy had a question on how many LFR personnel are amid the 44.
I think, and I would have to go back.
There's 11 LFR personnel among the 44.
Thank you.
All right, Brad, we're going to let you go. Be safe.
Awesome. You all have a great day.